Hello, thanks for joining me and welcome to another build video. I'm currently doing a build for a spin indexer and I've got to the point where I need to machine the spindle up, which is a big chunk of steel like this. Now the issue I have is I do not have a steady rest for the lathe, so I can't bore the inside of this long piece of steel without a steady rest. That project's on hold, and in the meantime we're going to make a steady rest for the lathe. Now, as per usual, I've been on Google and YouTube and looked around and had a look at a lot of different YouTubers who have made steady rest for their lathes, and I found one that I particularly like, and the material I pretty much have for it as well. So that was from Winky's workshop, and I'll put the link in the description there as well. And basically he used a bit of thick-walled tubing like this. So that's for the round piece, and then of course you have your three sort of pedestal things that pop out here for your adjusters, and then you have some sliders that go in those for your fingers to go onto the piece of metal that you want to put in the steady rest here. And that's all mounted to the bed of the lathe by a big piece of steel. Well, not this long, but you know, it'll be cut a little bit shorter, but that's 40 mil by 40 mil, so that's about 1.5 inch square, and that'll be a little bit machined up, and that goes underneath here with some little pedestals all welded together, and that bolts onto the bed of the lathe there. So this build is going to be very similar to the one on Winky's workshop, with just, you know, maybe a couple of little differences. So these pieces here, I think he used 1 inch round solid bar for these pieces. This is some stuff I got free. It was given to me. Well, it's just a little over 30 millimeters actually. I might just clean it up and take it down to about 30 millimeters, and that will work for those three adjusters on the side there. And again, I got given some bar. It's the little piece I've cut off this longer piece here. So I've got plenty of this stuff here, and I've chucked it in the mill and machined it up. I just don't know what this is, and I didn't want to end up having a really hard piece of steel, like hardened steel, to machine. So that machined up nice and easy. So I think it's just mild steel, which is good. Maybe it needs to be machined up a little bit thinner, possibly. I'm not too sure yet. But definitely got plenty of that for the fingers that will go down there, and one up there, and one on the other side, and they meet in the middle. And on the end of these fingers, on Winky's workshop build, he just had the ends of the steel go in, and you know, they would touch the piece of bar that you have sticking out, and then you put some oil on there, and it's just you know, just touching, barely touching that bar. So on this particular one, I'm going to be putting some bearings here. So these bearings, and that will hopefully reduce the friction on the bar, well, where the fingers touch. So that's a little modification, but pretty much the rest of it will be built exactly the same. So again, full credit to Winky's workshop and putting the time in to make the video of his build and posting that up, so that, you know, the rest of us can learn from it and make something similar. I had to machine the ends of these fingers first. That's so I could work out the length that I need here. So these are just sort of rough cut. These will actually not be right out this far because there will be the bearing on the end, so they'll probably be coming back a little bit like that. But I think the length here is actually quite good, and it allows me to put the bolt, M8 bolt that will go through with a washer holding this on once I've milled out this round piece here. So I think the next step will be to do the ends in here for the bearing. I mean, that sharp corner will be flattened off as well, probably. So we'll put a slot in here for the bearing to go in, and we'll need to drill a hole. I think it's a 6mm inside diameter for that bearing, so we'll drill a hole in there. Then once we've done that, we can cut the recess out here so that these can slide in and out. And I'm going to have kind of, I guess, a T type thing like this. And the bolt will go in there and it would lock in. And then when I loosen the bolt off, it will pull the slider out. And then when I screw the bolt in, it'll push the slider in as well. Got the fingers all machined up, so that part is all done. Apart from bolting on the bearings, there's probably not much more to do with those. So the next step is to work on the these kind of guides, I guess you'd call it. So they'll be machined out the same width as the finger, and that finger will slide in here. There will be a locking bolt. It will be sort of here somewhere. So if I take it right back, the locking bolt would be around about there. And then if I bring it right forward, it takes it pretty much to the middle. So that sort of works out for that. So I just need to work out where the locking bolt is going to go. And I also need to work out where the end of the bar is, because there's going to be a thread in the end for the bolt, which will sort of fit in here. So it'll fit in there, and then the thread here will go through the end of this sliding mechanism. And that way it allows you to tighten down or adjust these fingers down and back. And because I'm doing it or designed it this way, when you wind this in, it'll wind in, and when you wind it out, it'll wind out. So if I made this different and had the thread in here, when you wind it in, it'll actually pull it out, and when you wind it out, it'll actually push it in. So it would be kind of a little bit backwards, I guess, if it was that sort of the other design, unless you used a left-handed thread in there. So I think this way will work all right. Now, I just need to maybe put a bit of a curve on this bit here as well, with the same shape along this edge here. So there's about 2 to 3 millimeter gap down in the bottom here. So I just, whatever measurements I get from this point, I just need to push them out another 2 to 3 millimeters that way to allow for this sort of chamfer that I'm going to put on here. We've made quite a bit of progress here today. I was machining out these slider guides here. Quite a lot of machining to do, so it's a bit slow going, but got there in the end. And with the power of video, you don't have to sit through that day of work. You can just sort of see it in a summary here. So these, yeah, they just slide back and forth like that. And here you lock them up. I'll make up a round washer that goes on these parts here. And they give right back retracted quite a lot of room in the middle here. So I think that's about 80 millimeters or something like that. So that should be plenty for what I've got here. So the next part I want to work on are the adjusting bolts. So there'll be probably M8 bolts. There'll be a hole in the end here. You put your bolt in, and then this part here will be machined down, or I might have to make these parts up actually, and they fit in the slot here, and then that what pulls the slider in and out. And on the end of that, I'll make maybe some aluminium knobs, knurled knobs on the end here, and that will give it a little bit of a, I guess, a different look as well. Now machining out these sliders, you saw me scallop the inside here, and this works beautifully actually. It just, you know, if I push it on there, it just slides round, and you know, that's sort of based on the center there. So that worked out really good. That's gonna really help me make sure that these are straight when I come to weld them onto this ring here. So I think that was quite a good idea. And these parts won't be kind of up where they are now. They will be, you know, these sliders will be flush with this, so, you know, you won't have too much sticking out the front here, I guess. So yeah, the next jobs will be to make up the some washers, the bolts and the knobs, and then those parts are all finished, and I'll be able to weld these guides onto the ring. So this is the tricky part, and that is welding these guides onto the ring. So you may recall I did scratch in the lathe at precisely the 120 degrees apart for the sliders here. So I found a bit of scrap. It's got a slot in it already, and I've clamped that on there with a bar at the bottom here. So that's all clamped and it's all flush. So I know that when I put this in here and rest it against the bottom here, it's going to be flush with the surface here as well. And coincidentally, the hole that we have in here can be used to actually clamp this together. Probably best to line it up before we put the screw in. That is really solid. That is not going to move. And you'll see that we can just weld around here quite easily. And everything just looks a perfect fit there. So that is really good. And I know I'm going to be in exactly the right place, and I can actually see down here as well to make sure I am still right. Okay, so I've got the clamp done on this side. So that's got a 5mm spacer in the moment, but that will be removed. There's an M10 bolt that goes through here. And we've got the hinge on this side here. So this centerpiece here is welded to the bottom half, and these outside lugs are welded to the top half. I don't know if you can see it on the camera there, but there is some green lines here, and this is the halfway line through where I'll actually cut the inner ring, and that will separate these two pieces. So the next, and I guess the final step, is to make some kind of base that fits onto the lathe bed, and has, is welded onto the bottom of the ring here. So that's what we'll do next.
Das ist meine Drehbank. So this is a Austrian made lathe, and I hope my attempted German didn't offend anyone there. It's a very nice lathe, but I've run into kind of a bit of a problem here. And I don't know if you can see it, but let me show some close-ups of this. So looking at the V-ways here, and I need to cut out this V in the base of the steady rest. And if you can see there on the left, there's kind of a big gap there. So this sample that you see here is just a 90-degree cut in a piece of steel, so it's just a test piece. And when I put it on this V-way here, you can see on the left-hand side, the angle is not the same as what's on the right-hand side. So it appears that this angle is something a little bit bigger than 90 degrees. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that the V-way is not the same on each side, so it's kind of ground on the lathe bed here at some angle. And I've had to space up this sample block on the left-hand side here. So not only do I need to have a wider angle than 90, I'll also need to mill the angle on an angle as well. I think this is going to take a little bit of working out what I need to do here. I will have a look at the issue, and I'll let you know what I do a little bit later on.
We had a bit of an interesting week there. I was milling this V-groove in this block here, and I lost control of the Y-axis on the table there. So the Y-axis nut had stripped out, and that sort of put a halt on this project. So I spent the last week making a new nut for the Y-axis and also for the X-axis. Since I had the machine down in bits, I thought I'd get that one done as well and renew both of them. And I've put a video out on that repair as well, so if you're interested in having a look at that, you can see the video in the description. So as you saw, I got back onto this project here in the mill and started milling this out. Now, I cannot measure this angle accurately. I don't have any equipment small enough to get in here, so it's kind of difficult. I knew it was larger than 90 degrees, so basically I kind of measured it the best I could, and then I started to mill it, and then I sort of fine-tuned it by checking it on here, and this is only by eye, So, you know, take half a degree or a degree and then come back and try it on until I got it pretty right how it is now. And that's only by eye. I mean, you know, I haven't measured this with any accurate equipment, so it's only as good as my eyes. So don't quote me on this, but it appears to be a 95-degree angle, but it could be 94.8 degrees or 95.3 degrees. I don't know, and I could not find any information on the internet about it. But that's 95 degrees there, and that looks kind of good to me. So we're going to go with that. Now the other issue I have here is this 95-degree angle here is not actually perpendicular with the bed here. So it's actually, you know, instead of being 95 degrees like that, it's actually on and kicked over on an angle as well. So maybe I'll put a graphic up and you can see how this angle is in relation to the bed here. So the next step here is to make a plate for the bottom, and there will be a bolt that goes through there, and that will allow me to bolt this up, and then I'll be able to put the ring or the rest of the steady rest into the chuck, and then I'll be able to work out the bits or the little pedestal bits that go in between the ring and this base here and get all that welded up. I've noticed another quirky thing with this lathe. The distance from this edge into this edge on this side is 7 millimeters. However, from this edge to this edge in here is only 6 millimeters. So this piece here can basically, you know, go on only one way. You can see that there's a massive gap in this side and it's up hard on this side here. So what I've done is written tailstock on here, so when it comes to bolting on the steady rest, we just need to make sure that this side here is points to the tailstock. Well, I've got this project practically finished, and as you saw there, this works really well. So I just turn down a bit of the end here, and there's no chatter there at all. So there's just a couple of things to do here. I've got a bolt here. I might put a little T-handle type thing up here. And the other thing is I want to strip it all down and paint it all up, so you know, it looks a lot better and helps to prevent it rusting. So I'm going to do all that off camera, and I'll just post a few photos at the end of this video here. So if you do like my videos, click on the subscribe button and click on the bell if you want to be notified when I release new videos. I hope everyone has a great day, and thanks for watching.